Hey, what's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to Computer Games Hardware. Today on the channel, we're doing something a little bit different. We are talking about the Rockstar build. We are going to run through a PC build that I recently completed with my good friend Joe Laff. Joe is a music producer, musician, and a very talented guy. My favorite track on his Spotify list is Reading Lines, and it is an absolute banger. And he's just released some new music. It's called Listen to Me Scream.
Listen to me scream. I'm just trying to work it out. So listen to me scream. I know you like the sound of that.
You can find more of Joe's music at his Spotify page, so I strongly encourage you to please go and support him. Joe was running into a few issues with his older PC, letting him down during his music production workflow. So he put the call out for anyone for some help on how to build a new PC. So we jumped at the chance to help out an old mate. Joe's also one of us. He's bloody got more computers than I do at his house. So let's get stuck into it and talk a little bit about how we did this build. We needed to take a few things into consideration when we started this build. So the first thing was compatibility. So Joe has a whole bunch of equipment that needed to be compatible and work suitably with his build. So we needed the right amount of USB ports. We needed to make sure that everything, his like decks and keyboards and all his license equipment would be able to run on the build, which is more complicated than you might think, because some of his software and plugins and things are professional licensed products. So that was really important. Also, Joe uses his computer in his main workflow, so time is money. Joe has clients, he's got deadlines, and he's got music to produce. So it was really important for Joe that we got the build up and running in a reasonable amount of time. All right, so to give you an idea of what Joe was working with in his previous build, he was using a AMD Phenom 2. For its time, it was a pretty beefy CPU. It was also a hot running CPU. So what we did was we kind of used the same logic that the previous build was. So we went with the 7700X. We could have gone with an X3D, but Joe's not much of a gamer, so he wouldn't have seen much performance out of an X3D model. So we stuck with the vanilla 7700X to get that productivity performance. So next up in the build, we also use the Thermalright Peerless Assassin 120 SE, and you might remember that from the build that I did when I replaced my AIO when it died. I used the Peerless Assassin, which I still had laying around here, so we gifted that to Joe to put in his build, one less thing to worry about. So that was really good that we had that on hand here. It is a fantastic cooler, one of the best actually, and Thermalright have just actually got into the market with some new AIOs as well, so it'll be interesting to see how those things run. But for this build, we wanted stability, so we went with air cooling. Then for the motherboard, right, we went with the MSI B650 Tomowhak Wi-Fi. We were looking for some reasonable performance, and what we wanted was a large number of IO USB ports on the IO, because again, Joe has a lot of equipment that he needs to plug in, that he needs to make sure is up and running. So if you have a look at the IO of the Tomowhak Wi-Fi, you've got a whole bunch of USB port. You've got USB 3, 3.2. You've got a whole bunch of USB 3 ports, a couple of USB 2.0 ports as well. And then it's got a pretty robust audio visual outputs as well. Joe doesn't need those, but because he has so much equipment, but it was there to use in a pinch. So that was the logic behind using that. And we didn't end up going with this one, but we'll run through what we were planning and then what the final build turned out to be. For the memory, we were looking at the Corsair Vengeance 64 gig, so 232 gig sticks of DDR5 6000 CL40 memory. And then for the storage, we went with a 2 terabyte solid state drive, and then for the main drive we went with a 1 terabyte Sabrent rocket drive. Again, reason being, Sabrent rocket drive super stable and fast as you can get. Then for the GPU, we went for the Radeon RX 76000 XT 16 gig video card. Again, we didn't want anything too crazy, but what we did want is resizable bar. We wanted some good memory. Also for this PSU, we went with the Corsair RM850x, old dependable. It's really good to have a little bit of headroom on your PSU to be able to connect other devices, more storage, etc. So we went with the 850, and it was relatively cheap. And then finally for our case, we went with the Deepcool CC560 ARGB mid-tower case. Just a good looking case with not too much airflow. It's not a fully open case, but it still provides enough airflow because Joe's computer goes under into one of those desk slots for a computer, so it needed to be breathable without being noisy. So for my money, a nice, fast, dependable build that you could rely on with good storage, upgradable memory, upgradable storage, is a perfect mix between price to performance. Throughout the whole build process, my advice to Joe was stay within your budget. Really think about what you're going to realistically use, and what you've been using currently and how much of an upgrade this is going to be. So Joe, like me, and I know like the rest of you guys out there, was just ready to go nuclear and buy all the big things and buy all the latest things and just take everything right up to 11.
What we do is, if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly. One louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Was sort of my job to bring things back to reality a little bit, pale things down. And the common theme was, let's be realistic about what we're going to use, and then, we can also upgrade in the future. So Joe was going from a 15-year-old system up to the latest and greatest. So it was really important to make sure that he was getting good value for money and good price to performance, because like most things, guys, you guys know that you can just easily blow things out really quickly. So I really wanted to be conscious about that happening. Here's where we encountered our first minor issue. When we transferred our build from PC Part Picker onto a computer retailer, they didn't have all the components available. Joe would have had to wait 1 or 2 days for all the parts. Tech tip here, guys, the website's always going to say it's in stock because there's always a part somewhere in the universe, all right? So we rebuilt the part list on a different retailer's website where they said they had everything in stock, and unfortunately they didn't have everything. So remember to be patient. Sometimes it's just worth waiting 24 hours for the part that you wanted to come in. Anyway, so Joe unfortunately had to make a few little concessions with the parts that he had, because the store didn't have all the parts in that store at that time. So that's not uncommon, particularly here in Australia. It's not like there is a computer part shop on every corner. So Unfortunately, we had to make some concessions. So let's run through what the final build actually looked like. So we stuck with our Ryzen 7700X. And we stuck with the CPU cooler, which was great, but unfortunately they didn't have the B650 Tomowhak, so Joe had to swap that out for the B650 Gaming Plus Wi-Fi. So it's got a 12 plus 2-phase VRM, plenty of thermal headroom, it's got nice heat sinks on it, so still a great motherboard for Joe's needs. The next swap out we had to consider for was the memory. The computer hardware store didn't have the Corsair Vengeance RAM sticks that we had originally put into the build, so we swapped them out for the Trident Z 32 gig 6000 CL36 RAM kit, which is a nice kit in and of itself. The next change that Joe made was with the storage. Joe got some advice from some industry friends and colleagues about the way his storage should be set up. So Joe decided to go with Samsung 990 Pro 2 terabyte NVMe storage, and he got 2 of them. So that was a big bump from him. We originally went with the Sabrent rocket drive and then just a 2 terabyte standard SSD for storage, but Joe wanted to get the fastest transfers that he could possibly get, so he went the nuclear option with those, and they are fantastic drives. We originally went with the Radeon 7600 XT. We decided that for Joe's current workflow that it wasn't going to be in his best interest to spend that money on a GPU, so with the increase to the storage, we bumped down the GPU to the Intel Arc A750 8GB card, so it would still provide him with the necessary resizable bar and get some good VRAM out of it, and then later, at a later stage, Joe, if he wanted to get into more serious video production and stuff like that, he's still got plenty of headroom to be able to do all that stuff and create videos and all that good stuff. So we were pretty happy with the price to performance on the Intel Arc. Intel have made some serious headway in the GPU market recently, and their latest driver has fixed a whole bunch of issues, so we were really comfortable with putting that in a build where it wasn't the focal point of the build and Joe's workflow. So that was another little change, and that dropped the price significantly. Now, the final concession that we had to make was a really good one. Now, Joe could not get the case that we were looking at, so he opted to go for the fractal design pop silent, and I actually love this case. It is sleek, it looked great, and it's got sound dampening in them, so you can go with the tempered glass version, but Joe obviously doesn't need that. This is his workstation PC, and it's got sound dampening in it, so for an extra $50 he got a pretty good upgrade for his case. So it was a pleasure to build in, and it suits Joe's needs perfectly. So good one for that one, Joe. That was a very good design choice on your part. All right, so we've got the 7700X 4.5 gigahertz with a 5.4 gigahertz boost, so perfect for Joe. We've paired it with the Peerless Assassin 120 SE CPU cooler. It's going into a B650 Gaming Wi-Fi Plus from MSI, and then we've got some DDR5 6000 CL36 memory to go with it from Trident. We've got 2 Samsung 990 Pros with heat sinks. We've got an Intel Arc 750 8GB video card. We've got the Fractal Design Pop Silent mid ATX case, and then to power it all, we've got the Corsair RM850x to keep it all nice and powered up. So a great little build, that perfect price to performance, resizable bar with 8 gig graphics card. So Joe is nicely set up to for his new build. Now, the next big issue that we had was a boot loop and slow boot time for Joe's computer, taking over a minute for Joe's computer to boot up. When it boots up, it's running fine. We're running Expo on his memory kit, and he needs that performance. So that was a big part of his performance. So we discussed whether setting it back to stock and having it boot up was a better option for Joe. The performance might be noticeable, but Joe was happy to put up with the slow boot times and get the performance that he paid for. And it really shouldn't be like that. So after doing a little bit of research, I saw that there was a lot of issues. Initially, we thought it was the RAM. So we thought that it was the RAM because they were Intel supported RAM sticks, but that really shouldn't matter. MSI have released a beta BIOS update for Joe's motherboard. We're going to wait till it's released stable so we can go back into the BIOS, update that, and then work on tuning his timings and then putting a couple of things in, like there's a couple of settings that you have to dig into, like memory context restore and some other settings to reduce the boot times on MSI motherboard. When the next stable BIOS version is released, we plan on fixing that, and we'll do a build update and make sure the Rockstar build is running nice and smooth. So another issue that we ran into on Joe's card is that the networking card was not working as intended. So we've got some troubleshooting. Fortunately for us, Ethernet exists, and Joe just brought out the longest Ethernet cable in the world and connected it straight to his router. So we had internet up and running and we could get that fixed. But that's another annoying little issue. Not to worry, Joe, we're going to get those things fixed as soon as we get that BIOS update, and we're going to put some time into making those issues go away. Now, another huge issue that we had was getting Joe's musical production equipment to work with the system, and that is less of a PC hardware issue and more of a Pro Tools and Waves and some other of the plugins and systems that Joe used. So he uses licensed professional equipment that are industry standards and are, essential for Joe's sound and vibe and all that sort of stuff. So it was really important that Joe had them up and running, and it was an absolute nightmare to get working. So it took almost 2-3 days to get running perfectly, and we needed to watch YouTube videos, we were looking up how-to guides, we were connecting and disconnecting and things like that. But these solutions involve USB dongles and licenses and things like that. It's not easy or intuitive for the Pro Tools systems, Waves, and other musical production systems to easily take your license from an existing computer and put it on a new system. Even the YouTube videos that we sourced to get it right go into detail on how annoying and how troublesome it is for paid users to get their equipment running on new systems. So that is an issue all in and of itself. We could do a whole video on that by itself, but we will leave that to the music professionals because that was a whole big thing. And the reason why it's really important, particularly for Joe, is because some of those plugins and those professional tools, hold the key to Joe's specific sound and his vibe and things like that. Just a reminder to check out Joe's music on Spotify, links in the description below. But that was another big issue that we had. Now, Joe's computer is up and running, and I'm happy to report that he is very happy with the performance and that he is using it as expected. Unfortunately, he has these two niggling issues that we have dedicated to fix for Joe. So that boot loop issue is something that needs to go away immediately. Anyway, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Thank you very much for watching. What do you think about the Rockstar build? What would you swap in? What would you swap out? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to head over to Spotify and check out Joe Laugh's music. I will put the links in the description below. He is a fantastic artist and music producer. So if you want studio time with Joe Laugh, maybe even reach out to him through his socials. So you can also check us out on the social media. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you are a Victorian resident in Australia and you want computer games hardware to build you a PC, you can reach out to us on computergameshw@gmail.com and we will field any inquiries. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. I've had a really good time making this one. I hope you've had a good time watching it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. See you next time.